Okay, not sure what. Okay. Oh, hello everyone.
Hi.
Can you hear us? Okay, should be fine now. A lot of friendly faces in the audience. Good. Hi, Spencer. How you doing?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. So yeah, what the fuck is ApeChain? Very strong topic these days. A lot of things on the plate, and I'm sure many of you already are familiar with what's happened. But yeah, maybe Spencer, if you could introduce yourself first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Spencer, which you figured out by now. I am the VP of Ecosystem Growth at a company called Horizen Labs. Horizen Labs has been involved with ApeCoin since basically the beginning, since before the beginning, actually. It was one of kind of the technical launch partners there. And over the last year and a half or so, as we've kind of reemerged within the ApeCoin DAO and got involved on a number of fronts, the opportunity came around to kind of throw our hat in the ring for ApeChain, and we'll talk about that obviously as well. But from my standpoint, I have very much been kind of at the leading front of working on the business development, the ecosystem growth, the planning around ApeChain, kind of making sure that it becomes what we hope it becomes.
100%. Yeah. So it all started earlier this year, right? We had these AIPs with four proposals, basically.
Yep.
Your Horizen with Arbitrum, and the three other, you were obviously selected, and since then a lot of things happened, right? So first testnet is live. Second testnet should come in the near future, let's put it this way.
In the near future, yeah.
What can these gentlemen and gentlewomen expect from ApeChain?
Yeah, so ApeChain is, first and foremost, it's an Arbitrum orbit chain. So what that means is that it settles directly onto Arbitrum, which means that gas prices remain consistent, they remain low. The
Gas as
speeds
I. Gas
and
as
Ape
right.
is able to be used as gas, which is obviously really important. It benefits from all the kind of Arbitrum tech that it's built on. So, for example, it will be eligible to be upgraded to Stylus, which allows for game developers and others to deploy directly in Rust and C and C++, and not just in Solidity. It'll have really high throughput. It will benefit from all those parts, as well as a close association with the Arbitrum ecosystem and all the TVL that comes in there. But so ApeChain, Arbitrum Orbit Chain, it's being designed with a gaming first kind of piece in mind. It's not gaming only. It's going to have a really strong degen component, obviously, a really strong NFT component, obviously, a lot of things for creators to do, really strong tie-ins with Made by Apes and everything that's sort of built within the community and to bring them in. And obviously a strong DeFi component as well. But that's, it's coming really soon. We're going to be able to announce second testnet date very shortly here.
Yes.
And as we kind of head towards mainnet there, and yeah, a lot of good progress.
What are the challenges, Spencer? Because ApeCoin inception, like it's 2 years ago, right? And
Yeah.
what are the challenges when you actually build a chain with an ape with a token that is already out and that's already been allocated to the community, etc.?
Yeah, it's a good question. So usually when you build a chain, you kind of start from this position of a really centralized location where you have a couple of people who are kind of running the show and saying, we're going to build it this way and we're going to have these exact things on it, and then we'll release a token or we'll release a coin and we'll start to bring the community in, and then people kind of interact with it the way that we want them to interact with it. Here it's completely the opposite, right? So we're starting from this place of already being decentralized. There's already a really loud, active DAO. There's a lot of different stakeholders. On ApeChain itself, even just from like the quote-unquote corporate stakeholder front, there are a whole ton of different parties working on it. There's a lot of community feedback. That's probably been kind of like the most interesting thing to navigate. It's nice in a lot of ways because it kind of sets some boundaries and kind of the canvas that we're painting on, and it allows us to do things in a way where we're not thinking like, oh, what will this mean in terms of when we get to creating the community? The community's already there, and the user base is already there to a degree. And so it's really about leveraging that community base, getting everybody excited, getting people to come in and build on it, being active and contributing, and then figuring out how do we expand it to others from there.
Great. Yesterday, we also touched base very briefly on an important topic, which is the banana bill, right? It's been on our plate for a few weeks now.
Yeah.
Can you maybe touch base on it?
Yeah, so with ApeCoin, traditionally, if you want to do things with ApeCoin, you go through something called the Ape Improvement Process, or AIPs. And you put forward a DAO proposal, it gets voted on by the entire community. It is a exciting, fun process that I really only recommend you go through with really thick skin. You kind of have to go through the gauntlet for that. That's great for sort of general governance things, for general spending, for people who want to do things off chain. It doesn't work that well when you need to be able to make really quick decisions and build things on chain, in a matter of days, weeks, months, as opposed to kind of putting it out there for just sort of broad decisions on everything. So with that in mind, and the fact that, like, from our viewpoint, we want ApeChain to be the biggest of the orbit chains, right? In the same way that, like, Base is the biggest of the super chains on the optimism side, because, ApeCoins and the club and everything around Apes already has this brand recognition and can be this way to really bring people into the ecosystem. We want to make sure that it's really set up to be able to bring on best-in-class infrastructure, best-in-class games. And so, there were discussions kind of going back months, well, how do we do that? We don't want to be using just kind of discretionary hidden funds. We don't want to be doing things behind closed doors. We don't want to make people go through the AIP process and sort of go through the public gauntlet every time. And so what was proposed and just passed was the banana bill. And the banana bill is a 100 million ape funding program, and it's dedicated to bringing games on chain, bringing DeFi on chain, bringing infrastructure on chain, and user incentives as well, and a large chunk of that will go through user incentives. And what it's going to allow us to do is, onboard a large amount of people really quickly from a developer standpoint. It's going to allow us to have the type of infrastructure for developers and game builders that usually you only have on, like, a major established L2 or L1, and it's going to put us kind of at the front of the line in terms of where we sit against all the other gaming chains, all the other kind of purpose-built chains, and things like that. So it's really important. It's also really exciting, and it's going to allow us to kind of have a much fuller package on day one than we would have been able to without it.
So what's the timeline on the banana bill, and if some creators are actually interested to participate?
Yeah, so it just passed, like a couple days ago?
Yeah, a few days ago, very recently.
It was lost total ability to track time. It passed a couple days ago. Once it passed, it set into motion a 2-week timer to get kind of the contracts and everything set for it. Everybody involved in the banana bill, which is not just us, right? Yes. There's a number of different groups that are there. You guys obviously involved in that, which is really exciting. Animoca is involved in that, Horizen Labs, Full Moon Labs, a number of others, a special counsel from the ApeCoin side. We're all getting together next week and going to hash out all the details of the program. And then, the hope is that within a few weeks here, we should be able to start accepting applications for it. So it's going to be a pretty accelerated timeline because it's important to allow people to kind of get through this as quickly as possible.
Awesome. So 2 sides to the banana program, right?
Yep.
Commercial agreement and user incentive. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yeah, so it's commercial agreements, and it's important to think about it that way because we're not just giving out grants, right? The idea is this is a program that incentivizes people who are coming to ApeChain who want to use ApeCoin, right, in their in-game economies or in their pairs and trading or as payment methods. But the more that you're incorporating ApeCoin into what you're doing, the more that opens up to you through this. That's one thing. The other part of it is what, sometimes I can refer to as community IP. But what it really means is that people who are going to incorporate apes, right, or mutants, or other Yuga assets, or in some cases other Animoca assets, will also get, I don't want to call it preferential treatment, isn't the right word, but it's, it's designed to benefit people who are going to build within the ethos and the mission statement of the chain. And those commercial agreements will be done, on sliding scales with a lot of flexibility. There's an advisory council that's set up to kind of make the final decisions on those agreements. And that council includes Cameron, and Juan from Yuga Labs. It includes Min from Animoca. It includes some other large names on there. But they're going to have a lot of flexibility in terms of how those are structured, whether those be, airdrop allocation agreements, whether those be, token agreements, liquidity agreements, marketing agreements, right? User incentive pass-throughs. There's going to be a lot of flexibility there, but I think what's going to be really important is that they're not grants and they're not VC deals, they're not venture deals. So everything is being designed with, is this going to be good for ApeCoin? Is this going to be good for apes? And is this going to be good for growing the ecosystem in the way that we want to see it grown? Yeah.
So let's address maybe the elephant in the room. 100 million ApeCoin is like 10% of the total supply, right?
Yeah.
How do you design this program in the sense that you don't increase drastically the sell pressure of the token?
Yeah, and there are going to be a couple, it's a good question too, there are going to be a couple ways to do it, right? One is, through the agreements, right? Making sure that everything that's done is going to also be benefiting back to the DAO, back to the foundation, back to the treasury in a number of different ways. Making sure that we're creating, additional liquidity and additional pairs for ApeCoin on chain, which will help as well as going at it from a perspective of, we want to make sure that things that are built on ApeChain utilize ApeCoin, right? So, you got to spend money to make money, right? But the idea here is that this is not a program for, random protocol X that uses ETH and USDC. The idea here is that everything that comes through it should be taking advantage of ApeCoin, be using ApeCoin as payments, be using ApeCoin in trading pairs, and that should hopefully make it a bit more sustainable on its own.
100%. I see a few creators from the Ape ecosystem in the assembly. Yeah. So what's the advice to them? Like, should they go for an AIP or should they go for the banana bill? What's the main reason that they should choose one over the other?
Yeah, so it really depends, and there are a lot of cases where I suspect people will actually do both. To be fully honest as well. Generally, if you want to build on ApeChain, if you have a concept that, like I said, is going to incorporate ApeCoin, is going to incorporate apes, is going to incorporate mutants, or codas, or moonbirds, or meebits even as well, and you want kind of full support from the people who are building the chain, to be able to be connected with the right integrations, to be able to kind of go through that process. The banana bill is probably going to be easier, especially if you have infrastructure needs that need to come with it. The AIP process, I suspect, will kind of sit on both sides, where it's either people who aren't quite sure how it's going to land yet, and they want to be trying something and it doesn't quite rise to the level of going through the banana program yet, or they've gone through the banana program and they're looking to expand in different ways and coming back to the DAO and saying, we've had some success and now we want to bring this to a broader audience. Or things where it may not directly tie into ApeChain, but have something where it's like part of it is on chain or part of it ties in. I think that those are all good places to go through the AIP process still.
That's good. And how has been the reception from the builder side so far?
Oh, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many people who are just lining up and waiting to come on to ApeChain.
Can relate.
You've talked to a bunch of them, right? There's so many incredible games that are just ready to come on board, that are excited for this funding to open up. So many developers, so many builders. there's also been a lot of people who have just been ready to come and want to come onto ApeChain and haven't been looking for funding because there's opportunity and they want to be part of it and they want to be part of the community and they want to be there and they're aligned with the vision. But, for ApeChain generally, the reactions have been amazing. I think that like at last count, there's something like 40 or 45 different groups that are like ready to go in some capacity, which is amazing. The fact that we're pre-launch, there's been a huge show of support from the community. There have been a number of projects like Believer, like Ape Express, like .ape, for example, is another good one.
Native project from the Ape community.
Yeah, where
Worth
it's
mentioning,
like
yeah.
community members who are already saying, yeah, I want to build here. I want to figure out something that's really ape aligned and do it, and this is going to be our home. I mean, the response has been pretty incredible so far overall.
That's good. So fast forward to, I don't know, soon, very soon, when ApeChain is here, finally here, day one, what to expect?
Yeah, so one is just like at its base a fully functional ecosystem, which is not really that small of a thing, honestly. It'll be a chain that has really best-in-class developer tools, best-in-class infrastructure, DeFi primitives that will have a lot of those community projects ready to go, and also a chain that will have there's a lot of things that I can't like necessarily talk about because of NDAs, but it will have some pretty exciting games, sort of exciting projects and things like that I would say raise to the AAA level in my opinion. So it'll have some really, really, really strong launch titles from that perspective.
There's a question that I actually got many times since yesterday from creators. We're more like, okay, so Banana Bill, obviously commercial agreements, funding.
Yeah.
But is there more to that? Like, will they receive like tech support if needed
Yes.
from both you, Off-Chain, Arbitrum, for example?
Yeah, and it's important because there's a lot of really, really good teams that are involved with this. So like, this is not like throwing shade or slighting any of the other folks who are building chains, but we see this a lot within the orbit, Arbitrum orbit being like kind of the broader ecosystem of chains, where they don't necessarily have the experience building chains or building out ecosystems. Here we've got us, and we can help from the partner side, we can help from the business development side, we can help from the connection side, and we'll continue to do that for anybody who comes on board. There's Caldera, which is the tech partner for the chain, and they have really full and robust tech support. They've been helping a lot of people get onto testnet. There are groups like Full Moon that are really focused on helping people get their proposals together and being able to make sure that they can kind of Sherpa them through the banana bill, which is really important. And then, Off-Chain and Arbitrum as well have been very closely involved too. So in terms of being able to hook into the tech, being able to hook into their, ecosystem and their partners, there's going to be a ton of ongoing support.
That's great. Another one, and this one maybe not that technical, but I got this question a lot from people who were like, are we going to have to migrate and bridge all our NFTs to ApeChain?
So a couple things. One is, don't worry, like nobody's going to ask anybody to move over their apes or mutants to ApeChain. Like
There's no team.
Those are assets where the provenance of being Ethereum assets are really important. Like, and I think that there would probably be a riot if we suggested it.
Probably, most probably.
And, I don't think those should ever move, right? They're assets that belong where they belong. For a lot of other assets, there will be multiple migration paths. We're working very closely with Layer 0, who's a launch partner on the team. The ONFT standard will be in full effect, which allows for multi-chain NFTs and assets. There are, a number of groups that are working on various other ways to be able to prove that you have your asset on another chain, use it on ApeChain. You will be able to basically have a proof of owning your NFT on Ethereum and be able to use it on ApeChain. But it's really going to depend per collection and what the collections want to do. but the idea is to have it be open for migration, but you don't really want to force anybody into migration because it's not easy.
Totally.
Yeah.
We're a bit over time. Maybe one last thought you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, I mean, oh man, I've got too many thoughts to share.
Okay, 2 thoughts. If you
Okay,
want.
2 thoughts. ApeChain's gonna be awesome. Like, it's gonna have best-in-class games. You know, there's stuff, and you've seen some of it, Dim.
I can't tell anything. It's like
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get you to.
it's awful. Even when you talk to some people, say, "Oh, do you know anything about us?" Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's like it's going to have really awesome stuff from day one. It's really exciting. It's going to be a chain that kind of provides a home for apes. Sure. It's going to provide a home for NFT culture, for ape culture, for the gaming side of the culture as well. And you know, I think it's something that's really been missing, right? Sure. And that's super exciting. And then I think, you know, the other thing that is really, really exciting to me, say like the other side of things, if you wanted to, is the fact that
no
this
pun
has
intended,
been,
right?
No pun is intended.
Okay.
But like, for once it was intended. But no, I think it's been really cool to see Yuga get involved 100%. Because I think that from the ApeCoin side, that's something that people have been clamoring for a long time. Yes. And ApeChain gives them the opportunity to build on something that's aligned with ApeCoin. And so just seeing them out there, seeing what Garga's been talking about in relationship to it, seeing Cameron and Juan and everybody from that side, PP Man, all be so involved and engaged with it has been really exciting. So yeah, I don't know, I'm excited.
Me too. Yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks Spencer. And
Thank you.
Looking forward for the next steps.
Yeah, let's go.
Thanks.